Hi guys, welcome back. This is Match Shot number 86, featuring the bonus footage from my interview with Miss Becky Berger Heineman. What happened was I had intended the last episode to be the final part of this interview, but then I discovered an extra reel I had, or extra file, with some really good content, so I thought I would add it on to this week. Now here we'll talk about her thoughts about the industry in general, her work on the Kinect, Microsoft's new and probably most innovative toy. We'll also talk about her time at Logicware and the sadly unpublished Half-Life for the Macintosh. So a lot of great content here. We'll also cover her favorite 8-bit and 16-bit computers. I know you want to hear what those are. So without further ado, here is Miss Berger Heineman. I've read that you wanted to continue making Bard's Tale games.
I did.
So what happened? Why was it Dragon Wars instead of Bard's Tale 4?
EA wouldn't let us. What happened was that in this particular time in history, Bard's Tale 3 and Wasteland were shipping, and Interplay was a publisher. Actually, no, Interplay was a developer. EA was our publisher. So EA was getting a pretty good chunk of our revenue because that's the usual way it works with a developer-publisher relationship. Well, we were coming out with another series of games. We wanted to do our own publishing and use a company for our own distribution. This was where the rift began. There was a bidding war going on, and Electronic Arts, as well as what was Activision, became a company called Mediagenic, went into a bidding war as to who would be publishing Interplay's products. And we were coming out with Dragon Wars, Battle Chess, and Neuromancer. And all these titles were really set to take off. The trouble is that we went with Mediagenic. EA was pissed off, to say the least. Now, the publishing deal that we had with Bard's Tale was that even though we owned the code, Interplay owned the code and the scenario and so forth, the name Bard's Tale was trademarked by Electronic Arts. So if we wanted to release a game that was called Bard's Tale, we had to pay a licensing fee to Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts wouldn't even let us do it. They said, oh, you want to use the name? Publish through us. And push came to shove. That's when Brian came to us, okay, we're calling the game Dragon Wars. And of course, I look at him dead in the eye and go like, you do know that there's no dragons in this story. So it's Dragon Wars now. Got Boris Vallejo to do art with a big dragon in it. It's like, you sure? Okay, so I had to come up at the last minute, come up with a story that had a dragon in it, and then put little quips every now and then saying how that there was a dragon battles and dragon wars going on in the past, but because the game was literally only a month or two away from shipping, I couldn't redo the actual ending of the game to make some sort of battle with a dragon. So it's, that was a running joke. We shipped a game called Dragon Wars, and there's hardly any dragon in it.
Sounds like a story worthy of a Monty Python skit.
Very much so. But unfortunately, despite the critical acclaim Dragon Wars got, it got 5 out of 5 stars. It got everybody's raving about it. Nobody knew what it was, and Interplay didn't have the budget to actually advertise the game properly. So it did make money, but it wasn't, let's say, a Bard's Tale runaway success. Plus, what hurt me anyways, was Electronic Arts was actually doing a Bard's Tale 4 on their own. They had a team in Redwood Shores doing a Bard's Tale game because they owned the name. Of course, they couldn't use any of my code. They couldn't use any of our art. They could use the name. But, there was karma on that one because, after 4 years of development, they ended up killing the title. But there was a time in which when I was doing Logicware, that I actually had some of my team come up with a scenario of a Bard's Tale 4, and we pitched it to Electronic Arts, but they said, nah, that franchise too old. And I'm like, crap! So...
Do you think that this setup with the publishers and developers, do you think that stifles the creativity of the designers?
In many ways, yes. Because what most people tend to forget, and because I've run the CEO hat with Contraband and Logicware, um, this is a business. We need to make money because the paychecks that I had to write to people, um, they were coming from a bank account that only had so much money. Once that money reached zero, everybody gets laid off. Whereas many people would like the id software model, which is like it'll be done when it's done. Most companies don't have that luxury, and especially big companies with stockholders or shareholders, they need to have profits every quarter. The only way to do that is to minimize the risk and go formula. Formulas are sequels or licensed properties like Harry Potter, the game. Those are the safest bets. So, licensed property, EA Sports. Well, they license NFL, NBA, NHL, etc. There's or NASCAR. There's your things. They own Harry Potter. They own a lot of other things. Of course, lately they've been trying to branch out by creating new franchises like Mirror's Edge and so forth. But still, it's like they want to create a franchise so they can milk it over time and then sell it for movies. Well, one things that we actually found at Interplay, which I was raising the red flag all the time, was Interplay's greatest contribution to the gaming world was we took risks. We came out with a lot of games that no one would touch because they were so off the wall, like Task Times in Tone Town. I mean, who in the hell would come up with Task Times in Tone Town and actually ship that? We did. Um, the game Neuromancer was actually based on a book, but we did battle chess. I mean, it's just chess with the pieces beating the crap out of each other. Um, Earthworm Jim, a Booger Man, a Clay Fighter. All these games that Interplay did were, we had a gimmick, we did something, but a lot of the publishers like, you know what, making a game with clay characters, I don't know. Why don't we just make Mortal Kombat 5? Um, we took the risks and we got a lot of games that would have never seen the light of day. The trouble is, unfortunately, we did too many of them, and the company eventually ran out of money, which is why Interplay had to die and then eventually get rebirthed as the company that only as Interplay in name only. That's what exists today. Um, Companies like Electronic Arts, if they were to do a title that was risky and didn't have some real meat to back it up to make people not afraid, um, it's a hard sell because that would kill the person's job. I mean, how would you like to be an executive producer who greenlights a game that's never been done before and the game tanks? You're fired. Nobody wants to get fired. So they need to basically come out with NASCAR 7. Or because it's like, then you could blame it's a NASCAR license. Oh, nobody likes NASCAR anymore. Oh, Need for Speed Underground, Need for Speed this. Oh, maybe they don't like that type of, but we can still milk the franchise. It's not something innovative is the fault. It's, oh, the franchise is tired. Or, oh, this is it. You can blame something else so the executive producer can keep their job. Um, that's where, right now, in my opinion, indie games is where it's at when you want to see innovation. I mean, who would come from a World of Goo? Or what was that one?
Minecraft.
Minecraft. I was thinking another one that starts with B that they came out with Xbox Live. Not Blade.
Is it
Bloom.
Bit Trip or Bloom? Yeah, the or one
Yeah,
with a
Bloom's.
flower.
Yeah, there's Bloom, but there's one where you could reverse time. As part of the game. I can't. It starts with a B. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, but the point is that indie games are done by a couple of people locked up in a closet. They don't have anybody to answer to, so they could write something that's brand new. And in fact, doing something new and innovative is what gets them attention. I mean, look at a company I'm really proud of is Introversion. They did Uplink. They did Darwinia. Those games, when you see them, they're pretty out there, and they made them some money. It's bingo. That is where the new ideas come from, because the big companies are If you were an executive producer and someone in your team gave you the idea for Darwinia, could you tell the CEO of your corporation that Darwinia absolutely positively is going to make you $1 million? It's a hard sell. And if it makes you $1 million, you'll look like a star and you'll now be executive VP. If it bombs, well, the door's right there. So, with that kind of a choice, it really stifles the executive producer's ability to greenlight titles as innovative as Darwinia. And hence, the reason why a vast majority of games these days are either sequels, movie tie-ins, or they've got some sort of celebrity hook. Like an example is, this is one of my pet peeves right now. A lot of video games these days, example, it would be Command and Conquer 3. They have all these name actors in all these cutscenes that they filmed in a soundstage. Did that really add to the game? Did that really make the game a better game? I thought I was buying a video game. I didn't think I was buying an interactive movie. I want to play a game. And so many games these days are, it's supposedly a first-person shooter, but you walk around a couple of corridors, kill a couple of formula monsters, and then the game freezes as it plays a cutscene with voice actors, and sometimes even it's filmed. And then you continue on. Why don't I just buy the DVD and just watch the movie?
I never asked for this.
It's, less work on my part. In fact, heck, a lot of times, many games these days, like most recently, I saw like BioShock or Dead Space. I didn't play the game, but I pretty much did. I went to YouTube and watched people do a run through. And as far as I was concerned, I just watched the movie.
One of my students just today, I was talking to her about this Black Ops game.
Uh-huh.
And I was saying, yeah, what do you think about that game? She says, well, I watched my boyfriend play it, and that's about the same.
Exactly.
So I understand that
it,
you want to do.
yes.
Do you want to add
Go
more?
ahead, go ahead. Yeah, I was going to add one more thing. A game that did first-person shooter right. Portal.
It's one of my favorites.
Where's the cutscenes? Is there a cutscene in there? The only one there is you actually get to see the cake. Other than that, it's just listening to GLaDOS just taunt you and go completely mad while you're watching it. Otherwise, it's the game. All about the game.
So you don't think that game would have been better if every few minutes it would have taken you out of the game and showed you 15 minutes of cutscenes with some big name actors?
I would have thought that they just simply wasted a couple of $1 million. And think about it, they just saved a couple of $1 million. They could use it to work on Half-Life 3, Half-Life 2 Episode 3 to be released in 2017. We hope.
It's my understanding. I just read that they're coming out with Portal 2. I haven't heard much about it other than I guess somebody's working on it.
Well, they have teaser trailers. You go ahead and look at it. They announced it and released it at the last E3. Just do some searches and you'll see the Portal 2 teaser trailers. It looks good. I can't wait to play it and bake a cake.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, I read a comment that somebody had asked you if you could make any game, what would it be? And you said Wasteland 2. I know a lot of gamers who would like to see that.
So,
Is there any possibility at all?
Ask Brian.
He's the one he's the one with the keys to the
Talk
franchise?
to Brian Fargo. Talk to Brian Fargo. Leave it at that.
Speaking of him, what did you think of his Bard's Tale game? The new one.
That pretty much. He first talked about it to me before he's doing it, and he starts describing it and says, Brian, I remember he wanted to do a parody role-playing game. And that's what it was. It was literally, in my opinion, the Bard's Tale game that Brian released was The Princess Bride. Even though it had Carrie Ewells as the bard, but the humor and everything about it was The Princess Bride, and it was not Bard's Tale. Bard's Tale is a game, a gritty role-playing game with 6 characters, a party, fighting these monsters in a fantasy role-playing setting. It wasn't The Princess Bride or Shrek. That's not Bard's Tale. Now, granted, the game that was shipped was a game Brian wanted to make. So that's fine. But to me, that Bard's Tale game, I would disavow any connection. If I was allowed to do Bard's Tale 4, I would do basically what I did in Dragon Wars, except the next technology, except, of course, now 2011, 2012 technology. And I would make something that would be pretty damn awesome. I just need to have someone give me $10 million to do it. But unfortunately, my pockets, let me look at my purse. I don't know. I got like maybe $50 in there.
Oh, maybe we can do a petition.
Woo!
Stop anything.
Yeah.
And one last thing I wanted to ask you about was this version of Half-Life that you did for the Mac.
Yes.
So what happened with that?
Let's just say that someone at Apple, who will forever remain nameless, get someone drunk long enough, you might get the name, but doesn't matter, overestimated the number of sales that would be potentially sold on the Mac. Now, let's understand this. This was 1998, 1999. The Macintosh was dying. Sales of Mac games, because I was doing them, I was selling them through Logicware. We would sell between 8,000 to 40,000 units. Anything that sold 40,000 units, I was going like, we're styling. That's an awesome sale. But someone told Gabe that he'd sell 500,000 units. Of course, Gabe's like, 500,000 units, I'm there. Funds the development of the project, hires our company, and we bust our asses. I worked on it. Andrew Meggs, I got to give a shout out to him. He was like, I hired him specifically, and I said, Andrew, want to work for me? He was like, yeah, I don't know. You'll work on Half-Life. And he says, I'll be there tomorrow morning. And he got in a U-Haul literally from Atlanta, Georgia, and showed up here at Covina just so he can work on Half-Life. Nate Trost was on it. In fact, in a way, everybody at Logicware at the time had some hand in that game, and we all was a labor of love, and we made that game rockin'. We were playing against PC versions. In fact, we had a special server which allowed you to game find and had a little Mac logo and a little Windows logo, so you know what kind of client it was, but it was totally interactive and everything. Well, we were about 3 weeks to go Golden Master. I mean, the game was done. We just had some minor little bugs here or there, just little polish needed to be done. That was it. And we were all set to do the maintenance on the game forever. I mean, we really were into Half-Life. We wanted this franchise to live forever, and we were going to do it. Then the orders started coming in. Okay, Half-Life is now available for pre-order, not to the general public, but to the stores. And the store says, we love this game. We'll take 50,000 copies. And of course, someone at Sierra was like, where's the extra digit? Shouldn't there be an extra digit here? And of course, they asked the people at Apple, says, we never quote sales figures. And well, things happened. People were upset. We were, of course, oblivious to all this. We're sitting there working, but then one day I get a phone call, and my friend at Sierra told me, are you sitting down? I'm like, well, no, but I can be. He says, please sit down. So I sat down. It says, we're canceling Half-Life. And of course, at that point, I just dropped the phone. And I pick up the phone like, what did you just say? Yeah, it says, word came on down. We're canceling the project. We're going to pay you your early completion bonus. Thank you very much for the work. You did a great job. Like this. And I'm like, but, well, what if we publish it? We'll pay you money. We'll just to let us publish it. And they said, nope, set in stone. Done. And it was pretty dismal when I went over to the team and called them together and said, you know what? We've been paid in full. We even got our early completion bonus. So everybody, you have 3 weeks off because that's the time you're all booked to work on Half-Life. You can even work on Half-Life if you want, but unfortunately, we're going to avoid answering the phone right now, and we're going to lay low because there's going to be a shitstorm. And yeah, we all ducked because unfortunately, the press started going wild, but the rumor mill was saying, "Oh, Logic screwed up the port. That's why it's beat." It's like we didn't do anything, and we're sitting here playing the game amongst ourselves, and it's like it's really great, it's great shape. And then there was all these companies, I know MacPlay, Macsoft, etc., where they all contacted Valve, and they were like throwing money at them, saying, "Please let us publish it instead." Nope, nope, that was the answer. Nope. And as a result, we were then told to take the code and bury it. And it's been buried away since.
Well, we don't want to end on that tragic tale. One last question.
It was pretty depressing. I'll give you that. Oh my God, we were depressed.
Well, think about all the Mac users. They must...
Oh, we took flack for a year for that. There were all these people who were completely convinced that it was canceled because we screwed up, and that somehow we did a crappy port, or somehow something. It was like, if they only knew.
So anyway, one last thing I wanted to ask is somebody
Sure.
who's got so much experience with all these, the famous 8-bit and 16-bit computing platforms, gaming platforms, all the ports and everything. I want to know what your favorite 8-bit computer was and your favorite 16-bit.
Well, the 8-bit computer has to be the Apple II. That was by far the most versatile computer I've ever used. Even to this day, it's still more versatile because if I wanted to do a peripheral, it was just trivial for me to wire wrap something. I must have wire wrapped about 20 or 30 different peripherals. Some of them actually became commercial products. Like there was a Harmony hand scanner. I did that with a Vitesse. There was a Focus hard drive I work with. Of course, my Apple II development kit. I even did a card that lets you control a 1541 disk drive, so I could do all my development on an Apple II, write it to a C64 disk, and then put it on a C64 and run the game. That's how I was doing my ports. So I had all my source code on an Apple II. That was it. And then later on, they evolved it to the 2C and the 2GS. And I remember there was many years where literally the only way you could pry that 2GS away from me was from my cold dead fingers. Yeah, it wasn't until like around 1996, 1997, which was like the 2GS had stopped being in production for several years before finally I moved up to a PC. And that was a sad day for me too. It's like, all the work I need to do is on the PC. I really can't use the Apple II anymore. That was it. As far as 16-bit was concerned, it would have to be the Amiga. The OS was way ahead of its time. The Guru meditation errors were my friend many, many times, usually because I had a bug and it caused it. It was just so well done. And of course, it got, in a way, indirectly revived with the 3DO, because the 3DO console used basically a derivative of the Amiga OS.
All right. Well, that's all. That's all the questions I have. Is there anything that you wanted to add before we go?
Don't do it. It's a trap. But anyways, it's just, I'm like one of the few old timers that are still in the business, because most of the old timers have retired or gone on to greener pastures. But what drives me is basically I just constantly want to learn. I constantly want to better myself as an engineer, better myself as a person. And I'm constantly just looking for the next best thing. And yeah, of course, if someone was to wave a very, very large check in front of me and says, "Becky, could you do Wasteland 2 or Bard's Tale 4?" Well, I may be turning in my resignation wherever I'm working. But that's pretty much it. Right now, I'm currently working over at Ubisoft Toronto, working on the next Splinter Cell game, doing their engine work, and enjoying every minute of it. And of course, previously I've worked on Kinect, the camera and the motion capture stuff. But all I could say is that I ain't done yet. So let's see what I come up with in the next 10 years.
You mentioned Kinect. Do you think that's going to take off, or is that a?
Oh, it's awesome. Is the moment that I saw the proof of concept demo, I immediately knew Microsoft had something, and I was privileged and honored to be part of that. I got to work on the camera, the microcontroller on it, doing the coding in the camera itself. I did a lot of the code optimizations for the actual code that runs in the Xbox 360. I put a lot of effort, blood, sweat, and tears in. Not just me. There was well over 100 engineers that worked many hours, many late. There was lots of pizzas and dinners brought in late night, all because we believed in this thing, and and everything that was in it. And it's just amazing that Microsoft of all people uh, allowed this thing to get done. And it's like one of the few times I actually saw a major company take a huge risk because honestly, this camera could have easily, never gotten past the design stage or the proof of concept stage. We kept working at it, kept trying to make it so that, all you had to do is put the camera in your room, stand in front of it, it recognizes you, and you could play the game. No, nothing else. That was our thing. We didn't want to make it so okay, you had to first program it and do all these poses. No, it had to be done automatically. And when I got off that project, it was doing that. And now that it's in the stores and I got to play with it, the retail version, I'm so proud to been part of that project.
My friend Bill is just
it's going to sell a lot of
crazy
money.
about it.
Oh yeah, and what's even better is now people reverse engineered the driver to the camera. Just seeing some of the things that people are doing on YouTube with the depth camera, it's going to be to me that camera just opened up the doors to a whole slew of new innovations, and I predict in the next 3 years we're going to see some games that no one had ever thought of because that camera allowed them to do it.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really, really honored to have talked to you. It's a really great chat.
Well, it's a great chat too. It's wonderful to talk to you.
Well, the pleasure was all mine.
If you got any more questions, give me if you got more questions, you know where to find me.
Thanks for taking the time to do this.
One, yeah, and also just I got to do a little plug. I also do comic books and I do novels. And if anybody wants to read my little Sailor Moon Ranma 1/2 mix-up, it's SailorRonco, RANKO.com. So you could see that, yeah, I do more than program. And with that, I'll go find me a burger now. It's time.
It's burger time.
It's burger time.
Now you got me wanting one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks again. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
And that's all for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed that. As always, if you want to chat with me, you can talk to me here at YouTube. You can leave some comments. Or you can visit us at armchairarcade.com. I'd like to see you there. You can easily join the community, participate in all the blogs and forums. On the downside, though, I might be pulling the plug on Matt Chat. As you probably know if you keep up with the channel updates, YouTube has saw fit to reject my application for a partnership. Now, they didn't spell out why. They just gave me a lot of possible reasons: a small audience, not many views, maybe some kind of copyright issue. I do have one of my videos, Dungeon Master, that even though I got everything from archive.org, which is a public domain source, Sony of Germany apparently thinks I am violating copyright somehow. So anyway, maybe that's the culprit. I'll try probably next week to take that video down and replace it with a new one and try again. But anyway, it still speaks to this bigger problem. I just don't have the audience for this. It's actually been on the decline. Fewer and fewer people tuning in to watch these, and I'm starting to think, feel like maybe I should start putting my energies back into writing articles and things. I seem to have a lot better reception with those, and certainly a lot more financial rewards for that. But anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the matter. If you've got some ideas about ways to build this audience, or know anything about YouTube's partnership process, or any ideas about how I could actually make some money with this, I'd love to hear them. Again, you can leave comments here at YouTube or armchairarcade.com. Thought I would leave you with a joke, really. You probably know who this is, but try to guess. The U.S. Let me try that again. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that a nativity scene will not be allowed in Washington, D.C. But the problem was not religious. They couldn't find 3 wise men or a virgin. That joke was told by Jay Leno, who you're probably familiar with. See you guys next time.